Next step, after we've connected to a historical sales data set and we've converted a couple columns that came in the improper format, the next step is we want to impute missing values, because machine learning models don't handle missing values very well. So we need to impute or replace those missing values in whichever columns they occur. So if we go back here and preview our data again, you'll notice there's some missing values, at least in the first 1,000 rows, the product group. And then as you scroll over, you'll see there's also some missing values in the number of units purchased. So we want to impute or replace those missing values in those two fields or columns. And the way we do that is we either click plus here or click data prep. If we click plus and we say we've converted our columns, now we want to impute the missing null. So if we say start typing imputation, that's what we want, not time series imputation. In this case, we just want regular imputation. Now, the data set that we're connecting to is not the original data set because the nodes are added in sequential order. So just think of this as whatever the prior node was. And then what do we want to impute? Well, one of the fields we want to impute the missing values for is a numerical field, and that is the number of units purchased. So you can either start typing it, and it's not case sensitive, which is nice, or you can just find it down here and click on it. And then what do we want to impute the missing values for number of units purchased with? The platform gives us a few options. We can impute it with the first value in the data set, the last value in the data set, the mean or overall average of the other values in the data set that are not missing, the median, which is the 50th percentile of the column. So number of units purchased, what is the value where 50% of the records or rows in the data set were above that value and 50% of the values were below that value. That's our median. So it's slightly different than the mean, particularly if the data is skewed. And then we could also replace the missing values with zeros. So in this case, we want to replace them with the mean, which is the average. So let's click on mean. And then we could add more numerical columns to impute missing values if we had them. But in this case, we don't have any other numerical values. But what we do have is a categorical. So remember, product group had quite a few missing values when we previewed the CSV file that we connected to. And the options here are a little different for categorical columns because you can't take an average of, let's say, a region, or you can't take the minimum of a product category or something like that. So the values here are the first value, so the value that occurred before the nulls as you go down the column, the last value or the value that occurred after the nulls, the most frequent value. So what is the most frequent value among, in this case, product group for the rows that didn't have a missing value for that? And then other is just to create another category. So in this case, it looked like a large percentage of the column of product group was actually missing or null. So we don't want to impute that with the first value or the last value or the most frequent value even, because that's assigning 90% of the data that was missing or whatever the number is to say this was product A. But we don't really know what product it was. We just know that it's missing. So in that case, I recommend using other. So we click here and we're just going to create another category, basically like another product group. So we click other, and then we're going to group our forecast by region. So if you scroll down, or you can start typing in region, you're going to click region here, send it over, click save. And then if we click, remember at the end of the node, after you add it, if you want to make sure it worked properly, you can click on it, preview it, and you'll notice a couple things here. First of all, product group, the nulls have been replaced with an others category, which is what we wanted. And then number of units purchased, the missing values have been replaced by this number 5.43, which is the overall mean average of the column for the values that were not missing. So it looks like that worked properly, and that's the imputation node.